This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
Okay, this guy's a really interesting dude, man, and we've known each other for a couple of years. And full disclosure, we sort of did some sort of a deal at some point where we worked. It was compensated for, and but we don't even have that deal anymore. I just really like his brain. I really think he's an interesting guy, and he knows a lot about the blockchain space and about technology. And he's candid, and I like candid individuals. And he actually makes me laugh once in a while. Frank Dumas from St. George's Eco Mining in Zeu. How you doing, Frank?
I'm doing okay.
Good. Whereabouts are you now?
Actually, I'm in Montreal now. So I'm back into better climate. I was off the road for a few days last week in northern Quebec for something that I cannot really talk about. But we've been mostly, in Montreal or in Europe, working on Zeu recently with collaborators. Also meeting candidates to be the chairman of this company. So we've met a lot of interesting people, and we are narrowing down right now to 2 or 3 candidates. So there's a few things happening, and we're probably a few weeks from the launch of some of our initiatives. Some of the products are going live, and that also is keeping us busy.
I know. Is it still Zeu Crypto Networks or just Zeu now?
It will become Zeu Networks. Probably next year. But we're the beauty of this thing is that each product has kind of its own branding, and you'll see it's powered by Zeu, but you'll see, for example, Mula, which will be the email marketplace, that's now evolving into some kind of a monster, because additional functionality are being added, and they're being added because the collaborators that we have are asking us if we can do a little bit more, or adding a service that their clients are requesting. So this whole thing, and as we go, we realize, oh my God, we can do this thing also. That's super interesting. And we're in a weird situation. Now, this is blockchain for us is a third iteration of the industrial revolution. So you got the automation, you got the internet, and we're getting now to this new way of looking at business. And it is a community type of, it's probably the social economy, the real iteration of the social economy. I'll give you an example. We're working with a collaborator or clients / a little bit more in the future that has for main purpose to provide financial services to the unbankable around the planet. And when you think unbankable, a lot of people think about Africa, they think about Asia, they think about remittance to foreign workers. But it's surprising how many people don't have a bank account, how many people, even in Canada, in Toronto, and Montreal, who are citizens, who have IDs and whatnot, but have been pushed out of the banking system because the banks don't want them. They're not profitable enough for the bank. Even though they have a job, they're getting a paycheck every week, every month, and they have to run to a discount store to cash their check. And these are local and bankable. And these are all people that will be servicing very soon. And we pushed the idea a little bit because we're working with different concepts, and we figured out a way to do peer-to-peer micro-lending so that the people that will be on our platform that will have a little bit of money will be able to contribute to to pools that will be generated by algorithm of lending pool. So you'll be able, for example, to decide, okay, I'm putting $20 in this pool that will bring 6%, and with a risk rating of XYZ, and I know that it's going to go from micro lending to other individuals in my community. Now, the real business that we do is not the lending itself. So obviously, the interest is going to the people lending the money. And what we do is we collect the data, the personal data. We're very open on that. And compared to, let's say, the Google, Amazon, or Facebook of this world, and a lot of other companies that are really, the real business model is your data, although they're not very upfront about it. We'll be able to collect patterns and personal data, although it's anonymized. So we are coming up now with an algorithm to do the equivalent of a credit rating. And that's the interesting part. We were brainstorming about all the problems that you saw with Desjardins, with some other company, with Equifax, with all the breach and the hacking that happened, or even just the employees that stole personal data and sold it on the black market and or on the dark web. And the way our platform works, you're anonymized to start with. We know your patterns, but we don't know who you are. And now what we'll have is the equivalent of a credit rating, but it will be an anonymized credit rating. So you cannot have your personal data stolen if we don't have it, if it's not out there to be stolen. So your wallet or your email, that's at the core of our platform, our financial platform, will allow you to borrow money and have a credit score or a reputation score, but that would be linked to your encrypted identity. So that's a few things that we're working on, and
this is part of the Zeu Networks. This is sort of the goal. So what? Because I mean it's and we've talked before about this, and all this sounds really interesting, and I get it. You're sort of giving people their own individual banking systems. It sounds like, or that's part of the goal where they can borrow money, they can loan money. Am I following correctly, Frank?
It is what it is. Yeah, it's a little bit simplified, but that's.
I try to simplify the big brains. That's what I do. So the common Joe goes, "Oh wow, there's something viable maybe here," because it's confusing stuff. You got to admit.
Well, there's parts that are probably very simple. For example, like if you work here and you're a foreign worker. You came in on a work visa and you're here for a short period of time. You have a hard time getting a bank account open, and you need to send money to your family, either in Pakistan, in India, it could be in South America. And it's a lot of the banks will be reticent. They're not going to be super keen to have you as a client because you're expensive. Like transferring money right now in the current SWIFT system is somehow expensive for a very small amount of money. You've seen probably people recently, if you follow the crypto world, there's people that transfer over $1 billion with fees that were below $500. Well, if you were to send a wire of that amount, you'd probably be paying tens of thousands of dollars of fee.
Well, every time, Frank, I send my $1 billion transfers, I can't believe how many fees every single time I do it.
But it's mostly the reason why I'm using that as an example is just to show how blockchain, and if you can do a transfer through blockchain, that will have like micro fees. Like it's very small. So suddenly it makes sense for someone to send $20, $30, $50 to Mexico to his family, and the service provider that we're working with, they want the technology so that they reduce their costs without changing anything. It would make them a lot more profitable, or even probably use that as a competitive edge to go and get clients by saying, I'm not charging you the maximum allowed by the law anymore to send a small amount, but we can actually cut it down. And if you say $5 on a transfer of 50, that's 10 a person. That's not nothing.
So, Frank, at what point will all these, at what point do you see a Zeu Up being publicly traded and sort of putting some of these initiatives into actual practice?
One is not linked to the other.
Okay.
The business really right now is moving full steam ahead, and you're going to see from the software we're developing for the gambling industry to the software, for example, the Moolah platform, that's the blockchain email. There's a few other initiatives that are coming on also. This is just ongoing, and we're starting this month. I think it's probably within 2 weeks to enroll people on the email system for beta testing. So we've been testing with selected people until now, and we're going to start to roll out to probably 1,000 to 10,000 people for the larger beta testing period. And this, like I said, has nothing to do with the going public. Going public, obviously, it's in our interest because that will allow us to be more out there and more visible. And that allows us also to close certain transactions that we've been sitting on because of the listing process. We got some positive feedback from regulators. We've passed all the different steps as per late August. And there's only one requirement. I think you saw on Twitter, I answered, and that's a question I get 5 times a day. And that's because I don't answer the phone most of the time. Otherwise, it would probably be 50 times a day. Is that we have one requirement left that's kind of a catch-22, but it's definitely not unfixable. It just takes some time, and we're sitting down and opening the books and being very transparent to a few groups that have shown an interest and want to come in and help us go over that small hurdle. So I would say I cannot give you any prediction of when because the minute I'll know. But I don't foresee much more problems moving forward to get Zeu public. What I probably see more is how we're going to sustain the growth if we get the same interest we got so far just by some influencer and some beta tester that we enroll into Moola, and how we're going to sustain the growth of this thing, because so far we've approached very successful developers and software company, and they turn back and they say, okay, how do we integrate into you? And our reaction was more, can we collaborate? Can we have access to your subscriber? Or can we, better your offer, or even just cross feed from each other? And the reaction is really, how can we be part of that disruptive project? Like, the interest is there. So there's a few things probably we can talk. I know you have your charity coming in, and maybe it's a bit borderline, but I'd like to know where you stand on doing, peer-to-peer charity. Have you looked into it with the initiative that you have every year?
So yeah, I mean, we're a big part, and we've sort of completed now this year. But yeah, I'm an honorary chair for. Thank you for asking, for the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation and the Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer. We had a great successful year, raising I think just close to $14,000. We had done better in years past. People didn't have as much money. I think they were invested too heavily in cannabis stocks. But when you say peer-to-peer, investing, I mean peer-to-peer charity. What do you mean by that, Frank?
But often the thing is, people's personal data are. You look at Amazon. Amazon is kind of doing it. It's a matter of saying, okay, instead of giving you loyalty points that you're not going to use anyway, or you might use, but most people don't. We'll put a preemption on it, and we'll put a date where it's going to be rolled to some charity, and it's going to be rolled for our dollars to a charity, and we're looking at probably doing something similar, but within our ecosystem, because there'll be crypto tokens, and there'll be money moving through the system, and we know we're going to get orphan and fraction of transaction that will end up in the air. And since we don't want to touch that money, really, our business is the data, and it's not, the fee generate. Although the transport fee or the bandwidth fee will be used to maintain the structure of the ecosystem. There will be some frictional, I would say, amounts that can amount to a few $1 million a year eventually if this thing is very successful. And we're looking at using that to encourage people to give And I'll give you the example of the micro lending. You could probably
I do got to cut you off, Frank. I'm very, very sorry. The music is signifying I got to get to my 6 o'clock hard news break. But all very interesting news, and I know. Full disclosure on mine, obviously, we've worked together. It's a bit of promo in here as well. I never tell people. Well, I mean, you're not publicly traded anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the Zeu Crypto Networks, I think the shareholders will be excited as to what potentially is to come, and that's why I like your disclosure. And you do pick up your phone, and you do jump on the show, and you also do talk about things that I think we will see in general, technology evolve, whether it's through charity, whether it's through email chains, being more secure, data protection, all sort of stuff. I'm looking forward to finding out more. Frank Dumas, I got to run. Back in a moment.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.